Japan is an unreal place to visit with kids, but how should you spend your time? In this video, I'm going to go over some of your options, as well as give you tips and advice for ensuring the whole family has an incredible holiday. Be sure to also check out my other family-focused videos, as I've already covered transport, accommodation, and food. But right now, it's time to plan out your activities. Let's go. Or should I say, ikimashou. When it comes to how you spend your days in Japan, there are a mind-boggling number of options. From temples and shrines to amusement parks, game arcades, themed cafes, toy stores, and dense shopping districts, there's something for everyone. If you're there at the right time of year, you can even plan your days around cherry blossoms or autumn foliage, not to mention seasonal sports like baseball games and sumo tournaments. In general though, I think finding ways to take advantage of your kids' interests is key to having a good holiday. Japan really is a pop culture juggernaut, so if they're into Pokemon, manga/anime such as One Piece, video game franchises like Mario, Zelda and Final Fantasy, or other Japanese titans like Godzilla and Hello Kitty, name a more iconic duo, then you'll already have some stuff to target while you're over there. Many Japanese cities have otaku districts with geeky shops, arcades and more, so if you're in Tokyo for instance, you can head to Akihabara or Nakano Broadway and check out dozens of stores selling new and secondhand games, merch, manga and more.
Welcome to Nakano Broadway! Let's go!
That said, there are more options outside those districts than ever before. The big electronics stores like Bic Camera and Yodobashi have plenty to offer, while there are brand-specific options like Pocket Centers and One Piece shops all over the place. Tokyo and Osaka both have Nintendo stores too, while game arcades aren't too hard to find either. Regardless of the Japanese property your kids are into, chances are there'll be places you can visit to take advantage of that interest, whether those are shops, themed cafes, amusement parks, or statues large and small. Your kids love Godzilla? Well, there's a chain of stores selling Godzilla merch, plus you can spot him in Shinjuku and maybe even zip line into his gaping maw on Awaji Island. Where's that? Just near Naruto. Naruto the city, that is, not the character, although it's also close to the Naruto attraction. Your activities don't have to be based around Japanese properties either. Do your kids love Harry Potter? If so, then Universal Studios Japan in Osaka or the Making of Harry Potter studio tour in Tokyo might be worth a look.
Wizarding World of Harry Potter.
Are they into Disney, Pixar or Star Wars? Disneyland and Disney Sea might be the go. For theme parks, you'll want to plan ahead. They tend to be quietest midweek, and by quietest I mean bearably packed, so try to engineer your weeks around going on the slowest days. And before you book, make sure there aren't public holidays, school holidays or anything else that might cause a spike in attendance. Research is everything, so you should also look into the busiest and best rides so you can beeline for them when the gates open. Most theme parks also have an app, and while they're not without their issues, it's helpful to have an interactive map and to be able to see how long queues are in real time. They have additional functionality too. At the Disney parks, for instance, you can book spots for shows and the like using the app. The system is quite limited, so look into it ahead of time to make the most of it. Fast passes can also be crucial for making the most of your amusement park experiences. At Disney Sea, we wound up paying for fast passes midway through the day just to dodge the queues on a couple of rides and get more stuff in. Universal Studios Japan works a little differently with a somewhat confusing range of packages you can choose from on top of your actual entry tickets. As we're big Nintendo and Harry Potter fans, we bought a package that included timed entry to both Super Nintendo World and the Harry Potter area, as well as the ability to skip the queue for a ride in each. Our choice also included fast passes we could use on a handful of other rides. My son was surprisingly fine queuing in both parks, but by the end of the day, the queues for the best rides can be nudging towards 2 hours long. So sprinkling in some quick fixes along the way means you get to do more and you're more likely to keep everyone happy. It's also worth pointing out that you may have trouble buying tickets for theme parks through the official channels. Tokyo Disney Sea's site simply wouldn't accept any of my credit cards, for instance, and this is a pretty common problem. We wound up buying our tickets through Klook. Also be sure to check whether your kids are tall enough to ride everything before you book. You really don't want to miss the flying dinosaur because your damn wiener kids are too small. And And as a general rule, Disneyland is best with young kids, whereas I'd wait to visit Disney Sea and USJ until my kids can go on all the rides. And once you've done those parks, it's time to graduate to Fuji Q. Just as I recommended getting your kids into Japanese food before the trip, the same can be true of other aspects of Japanese culture. If your children haven't seen Totoro or the other kid-friendly Studio Ghibli classics, those characters are everywhere in Japan, so it's worth getting the family up to speed. Speaking of Studio Ghibli, the merch shops are everywhere now, but if you're hoping to visit the Ghibli Museum or Ghibli Park, you'll definitely need to get those tickets well in advance. That goes for plenty of activities, incidentally. Lots of locations sell out ahead of time, so if you're doing Disney or tackling Team Lab, get your tickets as far in advance as possible. You're probably fine to buy tickets for things like Skytree or Tokyo Tower on the day, but I'd still try and book ahead as you may be able to find a better price online, particularly if you're looking to book a handful of activities and thus may be able to get a package discount. One overall piece of advice I have is to be realistic about what makes sense for your kids. When my son was younger, for instance, we definitely catered our itineraries more specifically to keeping him happy, which meant more amusement parks and less museums, more merch and less temples, more chilling and less walking. Now that he's a bit older, however, it's more of a mix as we try to get him into the stuff we like to do in Japan. He might not have particularly wanted to hike up Mount Kintoki and Hakone for a view of Mount Fuji, but the promise of a mochi at the top, followed by a meal of his choice when he got back down, gave him something to look forward to. Context can be invaluable too, so in the instance of Kintoki, I told him the folktale of the super strong Kintaro, who was supposedly raised by a witch on the very mountain we were climbing. That way, when we saw the boulder Kintaro supposedly broke in two, and then when we found an enormous axe on the summit, much like the one he was said to have carried around, it all made more sense. Obviously, your mileage will vary, as my son's eyes tend to glaze over whenever I start talking about how amazing it is that a temple has been around for 1,000 years. But still, context will help them get more out of the trip in general, and it's a good excuse for you to dive into researching your destinations a little more too. There's some fun supernatural aspects of Japanese culture you can all learn about together as well, such as yokai and animism. I mean, who doesn't want to know about how kappa love cucumbers, or how there's that weird umbrella yokai? Or you can dig into some of the more fearsome looking creatures like Oni and Tengu. Choosing manageable, age-appropriate activities is everything. You're not going to want to climb Kintoki if you have to lug a stroller and carry a child the entire way, for instance. Instead, maybe you're better off hitting a toy store, finding a playground, or petting some adorable miniature pigs.
Hello.
You may also want to involve your children in the planning stages ahead of the trip, telling them about some of the options so they can build out a list of stuff they'd like to do. That way, when you're there, they can pick stuff from their list, perhaps even choosing between a couple of options so they have a little agency in what's happening each day. And if you don't want your kids badgering you to buy stuff for them constantly, you could think about giving them a daily allowance that they can choose to spend however they like. That way, they have to decide what they really want. Do they want to spend money on UFO catchers, gachapon, gaming arcades, merch, figurines, vending machines, Famicom or Famichiki? Here are a handful of other tips to bear in mind. This is a bit counterintuitive given I've said you should get your kids interested in Japanese food and culture ahead of the trip, but it's also a bit dangerous to hype it up too much. If you're like Tokyo is the craziest, busiest city in the world, or Japanese game arcades are like nothing you've ever seen, you run the risk of setting dangerously high expectations. Better to under-promise and over-deliver. A good way to help ensure your kids actually remember more of the holiday is to either have them write a daily journal if they're old enough, or do some kind of family recap at the end of the day, covering off the stuff that everyone liked most or perhaps even disliked.
It seems like you're not taking this seriously.
What makes you say that?
That's a good time to go over the plan for the following day too. You can also get your kids to write postcards to send back home to family and friends. Sure, they probably won't arrive until after you're back, but that's not really the point. If you need a bathroom, obvious options are train stations and department stores, but most Conbini also have bathrooms that customers can use. Just be sure to buy something if you do that. You can also use Conbinis to get cash out, use the rubbish and recycling bins that are usually just inside the doors, and of course as the easiest source of a snack, meal or drink. And lastly, don't try to cram too much in. Tired kids are grumpy kids. I hope you've enjoyed this video and the others in the series. Please subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of the awesome Japan travel content I have planned. And have a great trip!